Quick question.
Hey,
So, for your dinosaur death preference, would you prefer a pterodactyl getting you, attacked by a pack of raptors, or T Rex?
well, dang. Okay, we're just gonna start like that. All right. Oh, goodness. Okay, so here's my line of thought. See, they mentioned how with the pack of raptors, you can get wrecked easily, and they probably go for the jugular. I ain't about that. I'd rather get swallowed whole. T-Rex all day. Wait, hold up. Wait, that actually might be a terrible idea considering if I get swallowed whole, I'm being digested slow. Oh my goodness. That's almost worse because now it's a slow death. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna die on this hill. We going with swallowed whole T-Rex all day.
See, I'm with you because one, I'm scared of heights. So, if a pterodactyl gets me, that's just going to be terror before death. Pack of raptors, I stand no chance. But if I get swallowed by a T Rex, there's a possibility at some point I can crawl out. But the digestion part is bad. So,
Yep. See, and what you notice is that I didn't even mention the pterodactyl because that was out of the equation.
not even part of it.
Nope.
But yes, thanks to our 10 listeners once again. I'm Demetrius.
And I'm Demetrius.
And Meeches presents
The Blerd City podcast.
Back after a successful pilot episode. I would say we got some nice feedback, nice love from the people, all 10 of you now. So
11 now, actually.
Perfect. So just getting into it, this is our Jurassic World Dominion movie review, the first one that we ever did. We have on our Patreon a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness movie review, along with a character study of Gara, just hyping up the Patreon. Before we get into everything, we're just going to hit you with the quick legal spiegel.
Yes, and so the purpose of this podcast is to explore digital and print media. All respective sources we reference are owned by their respective companies, and our thoughts and opinions are strictly our own and do not reflect any biases or corporate agendas. Your discretion is advised.
Nice. So how we're going to get into it, we're going to start with what's hot, what the people are talking about. This was a very exciting week on a lot of different fronts. So what have you been hearing? What can you cook on the top of your vehicle hood?
Oh man, well let's see. First of all, we had Miss Marvel drop on Wednesday, and I thought it was like a pretty cool show. You know, I love the aesthetic of it. You can find it on Disney Plus. It's also great. And then if we're talking about like our Japanese listeners, all one of you who's probably listening right now, you may be surprised to know that as of today, Dragon Ball Super Superhero has been released.
Ooh.
So, unfortunately for me, I've already been spoiled on the entire movie, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody else. Just go see it if you can, and I definitely will whenever it is released here in the States.
Yeah, that absolutely sucks. But yeah, for me, what I've been hearing, it's been a lot of trailers that have dropped recently. So you can check out just on YouTube the trailers for Black Adam, which may or may not have a review depending on when we come back. Then Nope, another Jordan Peele classic. They gave a more of a full trailer review. I'm interested in the twist that'll be there. Then we have Prey, which is going to be the Predator 5, I believe, movie, which is a Hulu release. And it's going back to the basics, which I really like.
Please.
Then finally with that, we have House of the Dragon. So is GOT making a comeback? Who knows? We'll see. But then also another trailer, again with our anime fans, Vinland Saga Part 2. Trailer dropped. If you have not seen the first season, I absolutely recommend it. So that's what's hot so far. Obviously, there's other shows that are continuing. The Boys, Obi-Wan, Komi-chan Can't Communicate, which is a really cute show. But going from there, we're going into our next segment, which is the random fan theory of the week. So with that, this is another segment that we want to end up eventually just being a fan segment. So if you send it into our Twitter, Instagram at blerdcity22 or our Gmail, blerdcity22@gmail.com. We'll take it in, read it on the air. But just with that, I have the fan theory of the week, and this is an interesting one.
Oh?
So every Jurassic Park, Jurassic World movie whenever the T-Rex or a big carnivore comes, they say, don't move because it can't see you, apparently. But fan theory is it's a lie. And it's that they actually can see you. Well, if you think about it, it actually makes sense. But it's because in the first one, they have the goat. And apparently the goat doesn't get eaten at first by the T-Rex in the enclosure. But then we see that it's gone later. So when Grant is talking to the kids, he says don't move because it's more of, it's active. If you move, it activates their hunter instinct in the T-Rex. And they want to make it easy. If it's just too stationary, then it's an easy prey. It doesn't kick in. Like how if you're with dogs, I remember my dad saying don't run from a dog because then it's going to want to chase you. So that's kind of the theory that they have going so far.
That's pretty interesting because whenever I saw that scene, I was like, that is absolute cap. There ain't no way that a T-Rex, like if it just sees me standing still, like, oh yeah, you know what? Come get me and just swallow me whole, or swallow me in pieces. I don't know what T-Rex would do to me, because they ain't around anymore.
Thankfully.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like that actually seems to be like a good explanation as to why they think standing still will work. I obviously believe that it won't work, and you should just do what you can and make it out of there.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we even see like in every movie it like looks and then it finds them and then it's like, oh, there you are, and then it starts chasing them. So who knows? But it could work initially. All right, so we're about to get into our first ever movie review. Woo! Before that, if you have not seen Jurassic World Dominion, we are giving a spoiler warning in advance. Hear ye, hear ye. We are getting into spoilers of Jurassic World Dominion. If you have not seen the movie, skip ahead to the deep dive or go see the movie and come back.
And if you don't, well then that was your final warning, because at this point, it's on you.
You have been warned. So let's get into it. How are you feeling about the movie?
Oh man, I actually I super like the movie. Like I don't know what it is about like seeing the whole dinosaurs and everything. It just brings back some nostalgia, some childhood memories from seeing the first movie. Especially with seeing the old cast back. It really brought some nostalgia back into me. And I also find okay, it's a great movie, and it also reminded me completely 100% that humans are absolute trash.
Basura.
It's like we can never have nice things because somebody gonna ruin it for us.
Somebody always gonna mess it up. Yeah, for me, I had a really good experience as well. There are a lot of things that we're going to get into later, but I know I whipped out my Jimmy John's sandwich and I had a decent enough time watching the movie.
Wait, they had a Jimmy John's in your theater?
Well, they had a Jimmy John's in the city, and I was eating Jimmy John's in the theater.
Wait, what? Hold on, when did you pull out a Jimmy John's sandwich?
All right, so let's not act like people don't sneak food into the theaters. But here's like my method. I take a sandwich or just a snack. I put it into a hoodie because it's going to be cold once we get into the theater. So you're like, oh, but you can see the outline for it, right? You fold it over your arm and then you just hand them the ticket, walk in. That's how you have it.
Huh? I think I might actually do that method because that certainly beats my method of doing it.
And what's that?
Oh man, I totally just snitched on myself. But hey, that's neither here nor there. I'm pretty sure there's no movie theater executives listening in. But for me, depends on what food I'm bringing in, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's something like, let's say, buffalo wings or just wings in general. See, what I do is I wear baggy cargo pants.
Oh, okay.
And I put them all into Ziploc bags, and make sure it's vacuum sealed, it's you get nothing, and then I just stuff my pants full of it.
Right.
And then just walk in. And then here's the best part, right? If you walk in with confidence and you just play it cool, they'll never suspect anything.
That's the thing, because you have to understand that the people working at the movie theaters that you see and like handle the tickets, it's it's a respect thing. It's like, don't insult my intelligence. So they're not there to check you, but it's more or less, don't have a bag of McDonald's and walk past me, because then I have to do my job.
Yep. So hey, yeah, guys, let's not treat these people like they're idiots, because they're not, and more than likely they just do not care. Because I heard working at a movie theater is not the best. So I'm pretty sure these people don't care regardless, except for that one person at my movie theater who came in wearing a whole T-Rex outfit.
I sent the picture to you about that.
Yes, and
That was a joke.
no, that was real. There was a person at my theater that wore a whole T-Rex outfit who worked there.
That's out of pocket.
And I'm just like, you know what? Respect. You like this job more than I definitely would.
So with that, also just a disclaimer, we did not see the movie at the same time. We didn't see it at the same theater, I believe, and we have not talked about it in advance. So every reaction that we're going to get from each other is going to be pure. I have no idea the things that we're going to get into, but I think we're going to have a great time.
So, boy, this is about to be a wild one. Maybe a cap.
All right, you want to cap us off?
Yes. So, here's the portion where we're going to talk about some of the best moments in the movie. As I said, we're going to get into spoilers with this, but first things first. I guess like my first moment was when we see Claire and her two friends just going into a whole like facility and breaking out a triceratops.
Yes.
I believe it was a triceratops.
Yeah, it was a baby.
Okay, cool. And was out in a whole chase because like this was like, because at this point in like the timeline, right?
Right.
There is like, okay, dinosaurs are now co-inhabiting with the world. And of course, as I mentioned, humans are trash. So some people like to poach them. Some people like to breed them, kind of treat them like the exotic animals are treated now.
Right.
So it's like, all right, we're going to have these people in this like really dingy, low down, run down facility. Some of these animals, if they die, they die. Quoting you, Drago from Rocky. And so, yeah, it's like Claire was not about that. And it was like, hey, let's break them out. And of course, they get caught.
Of
so
course.
a chase scene had to happen. The first of many, mind you. And throughout the entire thing, I'm just like, man, it would be a real shame if like a dinosaur just crashed and 2 seconds later, like the cars get crashed by roaming dinosaurs. So I'm like, first time I predicted something right in a movie.
Nice. Yeah, for me, I would say just fast forwarding, then we see Owen, he's like hurting other herbivores, dinosaurs. It's a really weird scene of like, okay, you only caught one.
I think they were brontosauruses.
Potentially, yeah. And then they only caught one, and it's like, oh, we're going to get you to safety when there's an entire herd. But from there, we then realize that, okay, so I'm going to get into it. I'm so sick and tired of hearing teenagers say, you're not my mom, you're not my dad.
Oh my God.
In TV shows and in movies. I know it happens in life. There's a better way to write that at this point. I think the older I get, the more annoyed I get from it, where it's just like, come on.
Yep. I think that's also partially due to the fact that, hey, we're getting older and it's like we're starting to think about kids. Like if my kid ever said some wild stuff like that, it'd be
Bro, I would get hit with the double slap.
Yep, it'd be over. It'd be over.
But just going from there, so we see that, okay, over the past 4 years, after her releasing the dinosaurs into the wild, that she is also outed, and that would be Maze, I believe, Macy, the little child. So Owen and Claire are taking care of her. We see that poachers are then after her, and also we find out that Blue has a little baby, Beta, that gets named later. So both of them get kidnapped. There's this scene where Macy's is riding on the bridge and the woman is standing in front. Now, at first, I was like, okay, maybe you can jump off the bridge. And then I saw the water below, and I was like, do not jump off the bridge. But at the same time, that old lady has to get ran over, right?
I mean, yeah, I was like, in my experience, like if I was in a situation like that, it's either I'm jumping off that bridge or at least pretending to jump off, like I jump off and then hang on the railing like right below.
Right.
If I had like any sense of strength at all, or I'm gunning right after that old lady because she did not look strong at all. Like,
At all.
She would have been the first to go.
Gotta get ran over. But yeah, and then it's like it was raging water, so I was like, okay, no, don't jump into the river. But in the alternate timeline, or at least converging timelines, we see the OGs we get introduced to. So Dr. Alan Grant, Dr. Ellie Sattler, and we see that there's like this locust swarm, and we realize that, oh, these locusts are out of control. That was actually like a really creepy scene because I hate bugs, and I hate bug swarms even more. So like sometimes I have nightmares about like swarms of bugs, and it's like so creepy.
I know, it was even worse for me because the first thing that was on my mind was, dang, the 10 plagues? We back. I was like, hold up, what's next? Like, we gonna have frogs coming out the sky? We're gonna have rivers of blood? What's next?
When I saw it, I was like, that's a big locust. I don't think locusts are that big. And then I just saw like a swarm. But at first I was like, okay, is a dinosaur in the fields? And that caused it. And then it's just like, no, it's like super locusts that are attacking.
Yep. And of course, our dear OGs, they find out that these locusts come from a certain corporation called Biosin, which is ran by Lewis Dodson.
Whew.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna get into this man later because
We're going in.
he's the problem. And if you don't remember that name, he's actually in the first Jurassic Park movie.
Really?
And like he was in the scene where I don't know what his name is, like the big heavyset guy, like he was talking to some agent.
Okay.
And like that was who he was talking to. And funnily enough, it's how you knew it was a problem because the actor who played Dodson in the first Jurassic Park movie is actually a real life sex offender. So
Wow.
yeah, so we kind of knew that that role was gonna get cursed somehow, and we knew that was gonna be a problem. Boy, did we figure out that this man is a whole problem.
So when we see them, so the OGs land, they're like, okay, we have to infiltrate Biosin. So Ellie Sattler finds Dr. Grant in the, scavenging paleontologist life, brings him to Biosin, and we see him, and he's like very awkward. And I'm like, at first it's endearing because I'm like, I get it, just awkward with people. But he's like next level awkward.
I was like, all right, so romance arc starting now.
Exactly. Yeah, but then they also see the other OG. So we get Jeff Goldblum, Dr. Ian Malcolm. He pops up, and we come to think or realize that, oh, he's also in on it. There's this really funny scene initially where it's kind of like, oh, third wheel vibes. Someone is the front wheel of a tricycle. So yeah, that was really cool. But then he gives the access key to Sattler, and then we also see one of my favorite characters in the movie, one of my two favorite characters, is Ramsey Cole.
Oh yeah.
This brother is smooth, dressed to the nines.
Drippy, and he got a smooth voice too. I'm like, okay,
100%.
I was like, oh man, I really hope he don't turn out to be evil because I'd be hot.
Yeah, so this is actually if it wasn't a Jurassic Park movie, this is probably the most interesting timeline to stick with, so we can just kind of stick with it there. And we find out that Ramsey Cole, he's also in on it. So he's working with Dr. Malcolm at this point, we see. And he gives the most smoothest info into like just giving them access to the lab. He's like, hey, don't go to this elevator. There's an elevator there that takes you here. If you have this amount of time, don't go down this aisle because there are cameras. Just information, smooth about it.
I was like, man, it was like when I saw that, right? I was like, man, either he is the smoothest brother alive and he's in on it, or he is the dumbest guard alive.
I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here at first? And then I was like, oh, okay. Because he literally was like, hey, there's an elevator that you can take, but there's an elevator that you're not supposed to go down to this specific level, and you need access and clearance to go to it. So I was like, okay, you cool. So
Yep, and like and of course our two main pro tags, they decide to sneak in and go in, and then they find the swarm of locusts, which is nightmare fuel. Because
Yes.
they get the sample needed in order to implicate biotin in these dangerous swarms that's going around eating all the food and causing a whole global crisis. And of course, they get swarmed.
Yeah.
I'm like, bruh.
So now it's proper time to switch back to the other timeline. So this is where it's an action movie instead of an espionage movie. So I then realized that these kidnappers have to be the worst kidnappers in the world. So we see the pilot, Kayla Watts. So we see the pilot, Kayla Watts, and she made the drop for the Raptor, Baby Blue. She then sees the kid just walking freely. They kidnapped a kid, and the kid is walking freely. What are we doing here? First of all, disclaimer, I'm not advocating how to kidnap people.
Cancel our podcast immediately.
I'm just saying, if you're going to be in a movie and you're a villain, let's be a real villain. So, disclaimer. But she sees it, and then you see that go. So, going from there.
Oh yeah, going from there, our boys Owen and Claire, they decided to hook up with their old contact Barry, yep.
Who is Omar Sy, and I didn't realize that in the first few movies until I watched Lupin, which is incredible.
Yep. They decided to roll up with him, bust the whole operation where it had this mad chick.
Santos.
Yeah, Santos, she a problem.
Whole problem.
She a whole problem, trying to figure out, hey, where Macy going? So, of course, they go in, they get into this underground, the black market of dinosaur trading,
right?
Where we see many different types of problems happening. We selling dinosaurs as food, we selling dinosaurs as pets, we selling dinosaurs
wet bones
for as wet bones, which is the big problem, as there were a couple of what species were they? They were like
essentially the velociraptors.
Yeah, basically raptors who could go after a person just by a single laser pointer. It's like once they see the laser pointer on somebody, then they go straight for the kill. I'm like, no, ain't no way, boy.
It's actually wild because she was controlling them without doing the laser pointers, because there was that one scene where she was fighting Claire and she clicked on something and it summoned the raptor, and then she pointed the laser at her.
Yes. Either way, she's a major problem. I mean, you got control of raptors, to do your killing for you. So that's a problem in and of itself. But really, of course, they find the main kidnapper, right? And specifically Owen does, and he managed to get him down to the pits where the dinosaurs were fighting. And of course, a good fight scene happened. Chris Pratt does his Chris Pratt things and managed to get the information out of him before he gets eaten alive.
Yes, pretty cool. It was funny seeing the little baby eat him.
I'm like, look, I ain't going out that way. I'm not gonna cap, But yeah, it's and then moving on, of course, we have another chase sequence, which is a great one, where it's Claire and Kayla driving away to the plane while the two mega raptors, as I'm going to call them from now on, are just chasing after them. Owen following behind them while chasing his raptor,
right?
Well, getting chased by his raptor, and of course they all converge on the ship, and in a spine-tingling moment where Owen almost got capped.
Oh, yes.
He almost got capped, but the movie was almost over. But fortunately not. They were saved, and then, hey, they're on our way to go to Biosin Island.
Just going from there, we then see that the plane gets attacked by pterodactyls.
It's Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah, so flying dinosaurs. And in it goes down. Claire gets ejected. The plane that Kayla and Owen in it goes into essentially the ocean, but it's this polar ice cap, essentially.
Oh yeah, and then we get even more divergence in the timelines. So now we got Owen and Kayla, who basically are trying to traverse the ice, trying to traverse the ice without it capping, which I'm like, okay, so one of them's gonna fall in there.
Yes.
And of course, there had to be a type of raptor that just comes after him. This one was feathered, which, as you guys know, that might have been what dinosaurs actually looked like.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs may have actually had feathers back in the day. We don't know that for sure, but that's a prevailing theory going around. So I'm like, hey, that's actually accurate. But yeah, so of course it's coming after them. Owen had to be the one to get into the waters. So I'm like, come on now.
But this is where we realize that Kayla is down to fight. She's down. So like she pulls out the taser, saves Owen, then tases the thing in the face when they are able to escape, which is really cool. But then we also see Clear in this really tense scene where this Edward Scissorhands looking ostrich comes out of nowhere. And first we see it and I'm like, is this a carnivore at first? But then there's like a deer. It slaps the deer, which was hilarious. And just like kills it instantly.
That was my favorite moment. I'm like, he's like, get that garbage out my face.
Have you ever played Skyrim?
Yes.
So, you know when you fight a giant the first time?
Yes.
And it slaps you across the map?
Yes. Yes. That's what I was wondering where I was like, oh, I feel like I've seen this before. Like, that's it.
But then it starts eating grass, or leaves at least. And then, so it's like, okay, it's a herbivore, so it just must be really territorial. So then Claire is able to escape, crawls into this disgusting little marsh swamp.
Couldn't be me.
And it knows she's there, but I think it just gives her a warning, lets her off the hook. Coming back to the OGs, we then see them run into Macy.
Yep, because she decided to say, like, okay, so I learned that actually it was my mom who made me, because as you guys remember from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, she's actually a clone of her mother, but she didn't know that, but she thought it was her grandfather that made her.
Right.
No, it was actually her mother, and that like she's apparently the chosen one. Because she's apparently the chosen one as told by B.D. Wong's character, Dr. Henry Wu. You know, because he's trying to stop the locusts, and he's like, maybe like she's the key, like something in her DNA, maybe
To cure us all.
yeah, just cure everything. I'm like, I was like, oh boy, here we go. It's like this is about to be The Last of Us, where in order to be the key, she gonna have to be dissected and killed in order to find the cure.
Yeah.
I'm like, please, beloved, don't let this happen again.
But there's no Joel in this movie. So,
We got no one.
But here's where again, I'm not a kidnapper or advocating it, but if you have something that is very valuable, you shouldn't just leave it unattended. So she then proceeds to just literally walk out of the lab and then free the baby raptor.
Yep, freed Beta, and then like she's running, and apparently there's like no such thing as security up there because there was no guards, there was nothing, and she just runs into Grand Sattler, who were getting swarmed by them locusts,
Yes.
and it's like, oh, like, hey, here we go. It's like, hey, let's leave, you know, let's all just leave.
It's incredible. Yeah. So then once they are on the platform to escape, I think just kind of fast forwarding a bit, Lewis is like, oh, I'm onto them. They're plants. And then he's like, oh, it has to be Ian Malcolm that was in on it. So then he stops the pod and we really get him, we're seeing him devolve more into villainy, but he's kind of like a dork, for lack of a better word.
Oh, trust me, that freak out he had, it reminded me too much of Kylo Ren and Force Awakens, where he's just swinging everything around, but it wasn't as cool because he ain't have no lightsaber. He was just throwing his hands everywhere. I'm just like, boy, if you don't get your goofy up out of this movie.
So everything's falling apart, and then he doesn't realize that he has an op within his operation, and we find out that our boy Ramsey is the head mastermind of it all. So he's the one that actually got Malcolm in on it. So he's kind of putting things in motion to bring down his boss.
Yep, he a real one. He's the main man in charge, and at this point it's like, all right, that's where like some of the divergent timelines, like they're starting to converge back together again.
Right.
So
Just like Voltron.
yep, just like Ultron. So we have Malcolm and like Malcolm, who's end up helping
OGs.
helping the OGs escape from these tunnels, and then you got Then you got the new crew, Owen and Claire, who reunited, and Kayla, and then they find this facility to hold up in. But this giant Gigantosaurus, who's apparently the biggest carnivore out there, is supposed to be the head honcho.
News to me.
I was like, yeah, news to me. I'm like the HDIC, dinosaur in charge.
I was like, okay, so he's bigger than the Indominus, but that. So then there's this really cool scene where the locust gets set on fire because Dr. Lewis is trying to cover up the evidence. So then it's like they break out somehow. I don't know how you don't design a facility to contain that.
Again, trash.
So then it's like a fire swarm just like flying over the entire island. Well, not an island, but the location that they're in. From there, we then see that Giganosaurus, I know that's not his name, but we're just going to call him what we call him.
Yeah.
So there's this really cool scene where everyone reunites and they have to escape from him. And so, like, there's just awesome parts where we see Kayla putting in work. We see the OGs. Oh, Ian, when he threw the spear of the fire locust into his mouth was dope.
Oh man, and the worst part is I thought he was gonna die.
100%. I was like, no.
Oh, please, Lord, please don't let this be how he goes out. And then he just chucks it in his mouth like it's a spear. I'm like, this man's a goat.
Yeah, so then just the abuse that this dinosaur takes, getting tased in the eye and just flares to the face and other weapons.
Decided to go leave and lick his wounds.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? This ain't worth the trouble.
So finally, now we are in the escape arc. So they have to get out of the habitat for the dinosaurs. But that means that they also have to go back in because they have to get rid of the aerial defense system, so the giant flying dinosaurs, or else the planes are just going to get brought down once again.
Yeah, and of course, this is where like a split happens. Of course, you got Claire and Sattler who going into the facility try to reroute power, and then come across the dead locust, and then they're just squirming around like, woman, if y'all don't, like, I was with Dr. Malcolm on that one, like, if y'all don't just get your mind, just go straight through there, because y'all take y'all sweet turns.
But we do realize that they're, again, I hate bugs, so like giant locusts on the ground that aren't dead apparently.
Even if they weren't, this is probably just because I'm a guy. I was like, I'm used to just swatting and crushing bugs left and right. So I'm just like, let me just kill these fools. I'll probably even make a game out of it. It's like, let's see how many I can kill in like 30 seconds. But yeah, there's that, and then there's Owen, Macy, and Grant who are gonna go find Beta, the little baby raptor.
Yeah.
Adorable.
So apparently in starting with Jurassic World, they have learned how to use the Force. So if you stick out your hand to a raptor, it will communicate with you and do as you say, to an extent.
Yeah.
So they use the Force, they shoot it, and then they rescue the baby.
Hey, Chris Pratt and Star Wars confirmed, folks. Chris Pratt and Star Wars confirmed.
Yeah, so then we fast forward, they're escaping the island. Dr. Lewis is losing his mind, and then we have the obligatory T-Rex fight.
Yep, T-Rex versus Gigantosaurus. It was about as much as you could expect, because that Gigantosaurus, he was like, after taking that L from the humans, he was not gonna take no crap from T-Rex, so he decided to put the paws on him.
So yes, he proceeded to body the T-Rex, but did not kill the T-Rex. So then Edward Scissorhands Ostrich comes up out of nowhere.
Yep.
And we get a 2-on-1.
Yep, it was literally the fight back meme. It was the fight back meme, but in dinosaur form. Yeah. You had the Captain America and Winter Soldier versus Iron Man scene in that whole movie.
He was like 1v1 me, bro.
And but then, hey, we get like while that's happening, you get one of the best moments, and that was when Lewis Dodson, he decided to escape in that pod.
Oh boy.
And of course power went out on him, so he decided to crawl out. And this is a great callback to the first movie where you just see a bunch of mini raptors just surrounding the man.
Yes, the Spitosaurus. So
yeah, Mr. Spitter himself, they would spin their mixed tape around. It was pure fire because it melted that man's face off.
The mute spitters of dinosaurs.
Yep. That was real. And they just they ate the man's. I'm like, thank you. Just thank you.
Nice. So essentially, then everyone's happy. They get home safely. Blue is reunited with her baby, and then there's this overspeech of how life itself will continue on. We'll learn to merge with the dinosaurs, be peaceful and happy.
Yep, and then that's the movie. Oh yeah, and just knowing that that Gigantosaurus took the biggest L.
Oh yes, spit roasted.
Yep. But yeah, that was the movie, y'all. That was the movie.
All right. So going from there, we can just talk about what went right or what we thought went right. Also, just like what's our fascination with dinosaurs in general?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I know, like for me, like what went right with the movie was just the representation of course, the older characters, and like it was special for me because of the fact that, like, hey, I loved Jurassic Park as a child. I even have a funny family movie story about that, which I'm gonna get into a little bit later. But really, it's like, okay, these characters, they still like, it's like they're still them. It ain't like it's just a complete and total mischaracterization of them. We're looking at you, Luke Skywalker and Last Jedi, but really, it's just like, all right, these are them. They're just older, and they're older, they're wiser, they're more mature. And then, of course, Grant has a whole romantic arc, which concludes beautifully, satisfying the wills of all the people who wanted them to get together in the first movie. Woo! And yeah, so like there's that. There's also the fact that, like, hey, and then of course it does this without like completely shafting the new characters. Like Owen and Claire, like I really grew to like them as characters. And I was like, all right, they're still doing great. They're still doing great things. They're still and they're still just, they still have their own agency.
Right.
They still have their own like objectives. They still do what they have to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for me, I think the introduction of Ramsey and Kayla was probably my favorite parts of the movie. I just think that when we get into our awards later, I'll go more in depth, but I just think that they really helped liven the movie at certain points. And then along with the OGs, I think if it wasn't a pure Jurassic Park movie, their storyline is like much better. Locusts are greater than dinosaurs is kind of what the theme was, more of a threat that way. But just even with our fascination with dinosaurs, I think ever since just like thinking of something that was 60 plus million years ago, and even being a kid, I remember just like loving dinosaurs, seeing it on like Discovery Channel, History Channel, and just like they're so unique to the world, almost alien like that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also the fact that, like, hey, we have evidence that they exist, but we don't know like what they really look like, how they acted, and what they would be like if they even lived today. Like, had they not been extinguished, if you will, what would it have been like? Would it be kind of like situation in this Jurassic Park movie? You know, like how everything just seems like it's the same, but with a little bit more chaos in there, which I'm always for. Or is it going to be like where, hey, some of these dinosaurs, they get domesticated, you know? we have ourselves like some a pet blue, a pet beta in our midst.
Right.
We have ourselves some pet triceratops, you know, stuff like that.
All right, cool. Yeah, so that's our total recap. Going from here, we're going to get into our awards. So the first ever Blerd City Movie Awards, we're going to get hype. So I love it. We're about to see a full tonal shift once we go from awards to the deep dive. Trust us.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So starting with, this was the hardest award to give out. So our first one is the biggest
idiot
award.
Oh my goodness.
Boy, it was hard because I wanted to hand it out to a lot of people in this movie. But after thinking about it, having a few days to sleep on it, I gotta give it to John Hammond, the very creator of Jurassic Park. He has the biggest dereliction of duty that I have ever seen throughout. Just like dinosaurs have attacked multiple times. He's out here representing clones. Every organization is like a scientific organization that is using his stuff for evil. And it's like, it's just awful. Like, he's responsible for all this, basically going to it. Like, so something I talk about with a friend is that cats are, if you release them out into the wild, they are a disaster to the ecosystem because they will hunt almost everything and they have no natural predators. They release dinosaurs multiple times out into the ecosystem. That's just, what are we doing here? So, John Hammond, I know we're just going to leave it at your grave, but you're the biggest idiot of the entire Jurassic series. So,
man. R.I.P.
Round of applause.
Oh man, and our next award is the Please Just Die award. And this award, goes to those who are you just knew that they needed to go and they needed to just get out of the movie because they present to be such a complete and total just drag. And I'm like, please just kill them. And for this one, with no explanation needed, with nothing holding us back, come down here, Dr. Lewis Dawson. You needed to die. I mean, bruh, first of all, you gonna order some mercenaries to go kidnap a child. Secondly, you gonna say, hey, we ran into some problems. We gonna need to, like, her parents are here. We're probably gonna need some more money to, kill them. He's like, do it. I'm like, you did that without a hesitation. So I'm like, okay, you definitely needed to go. And then, of course, realizing that he was the one that released the locusts into the wild. Oh, nah, son. And you tried to cover it up too? See, this is why when you died at the end of the movie, I pretty much almost cheered because you needed to go. So Dr. Lewis Dodson, come down for your Please Die award.
All right, for the next one, this was the second hardest award for me to give out because I was flipping back and forth between two. But for the I Need a Hero award, I'm going with Ramsey Cole. He orchestrated the fall of Biosyn. So, putting people in places and positions, he was playing 5D chess the entire time. We did not know that. We thought he was like a knight. We realized he was the king, and he was using everybody like queens. And just like we already talked about, the fit, the smoothness, hair was on point. You saved the movie, you brought it down, you put people where they needed to be to get things done. I have nothing else to say. Ramsey Cole, come down. You are our hero.
Come on, brother. And then this next award is the Gruesome Death Award. A death in which I would not ever wish on myself or even my entire enemies. So, to the man who kidnapped Macy, come down, sir. Because you had hands down one of the worst deaths. You got your hand taken out by a raptor, your other hand taken out by a baby. A baby. And then when all is said and done, here comes Mega Raptor here to just swipe your head off. I was like, couldn't be me. I said it earlier. I can't go out like that. So Mr. Kidnapper, come on down.
For our final award, this is the one that I was so hard not to be a simp about, but the spotlight is yours. Kayla Watts, the pilot. Oh boy, come down, get this award, because every scene she was in, she stole it. She She went from, oh, I am a pilot that's part of this mercenary group and kind of just like aloof, to just one of the biggest heroes of the movie, where that's why she was in competition with Ramsey. But every scene she was in, she absolutely stole it. Great acting performance and just great to see. So come get your award. The spotlight is yours. Now, for our final rankings, do you want to kind of break it down for us?
Yes. Yes. So in terms of our rankings, we have the F tier, which is our Dinosaurs by Sinclair, because it's obviously the worst one. We have our D tier, which is Barney, our purple little dinosaur, best friend forever. You got a C tier, which is Littlefoot. No explanation needed.
Yep.
Because it's Littlefoot. B tier is Reptar, who's great childhood memories. Our A tier, which is Dino. And then finally, S tier, Shin Godzilla. No explanation needed because he's just a goat. So, Demetrius, what would you rank this movie?
So I know we talked about what we enjoyed. For me, it was definitely a Littlefoot, a C tier movie, in my opinion. So it kind of translates to a shrug your shoulders. So the movie is perfectly fine. That's kind of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I was actually also going to give it the C tier of Littlefoot because I was like, okay, there's all these great moments. Like, hey, you got these great characters coming back. But at the end of the day, it's like, is this something I would spend money to go see again? Probably not.
And that's how it translates to C tier, in my opinion. So with that, which trilogy is better?
Sir. All right. So here's the thing, and I'm gonna need all the dinosaur people to not come at me. I do think that the Jurassic World trilogy was actually slightly better than the OG.
Interesting.
Yes, so here's my reasoning for that. The first Jurassic Park movie, amazing. One of the greatest movies, all right? Steven Spielberg, he did his thing. And it's like, hey, this is one of the movies that just can't be topped, right? But you gotta admit, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, they almost carried the entire trilogy. Sure, it was this movie was a slight step down from the other two. I just generally like the premise of at least Fallen Kingdom and Dominion about a little bit more because, like, hey, they're actually officially within human society, which I was like the most interested in. Because like the first movies, it was just like, okay, they're just here, but it's like it's not completely interacting with society, if you will.
Okay.
So like really, it was more of the fact that like, okay, it's finally fulfilling on like what I was most interested in if dinosaurs were to ever come back. That's why I said it's slightly superior. Not by much, mind you, because Jurassic Park kind of carried like the other two, not even cap.
Cool. Well, this is where like it's good to have differences of opinion and preferences, and it's cool for people to have differences of opinions. I'm talking to you listeners, just in case. But for me, I have to go with the OG trilogy.
Yeah.
Just because I know that we talked about last week the dedication to like the comics and essence of the characters. As a creator, I believe that you have the right to take a story wherever you want to take it. So, but what I liked a lot in the first trilogy is that it felt more horror-like and you felt tense throughout the entire movie. But in the first one, and then also in the third one, I remember just feeling like, okay, the main characters are in trouble. Like, they're actually going to get eaten by dinosaurs. I never actually felt that in this movie. In the first Jurassic World movie, I felt it with the Indominus Rex.
Yeah.
He was a menace, but just with the first trilogy, I definitely felt like it was like, oh, here we are, especially with like the third one with the Spinosaurus, where it's just like, oh, wow, this Spinosaurus is coming after them. These Raptors are coming after them, where it's just like terror with that. So I that's why I just prefer the first one. And I think just like this Fallen Kingdom left a sour taste in my mouth about how it ended and the choice to let her release the dinosaurs out into the wild. So, but with that, so I'm excited for this part. So Meech was already deep in the Gulf of Mexico. I was on the boat paddling, just trying to be nice about this, but it's time to jump off. It's time for the deep dive. So we are getting into reboots, remakes, and requels. Okay, so when we were talking about this a few weeks ago, you kind of I was hyped about it and I was like save it for the pod, but I'm actually really scared now because I don't know what's about to happen. So I'm gonna step out the way. You have the floor.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about reboots, remakes, and requels, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So, okay. So I have this thing, right, where, especially in like the horror movie community, where it feels like originality is dying or is already dead. And this is not just exclusive to them, it's starting to bleed into other categories as well. So in terms of like, okay, what are reboots, remakes, and requels? Okay, so for a remake is where they take an existing movie, right? And they just pretty much do it again. And there's like many different offenders. Like some remakes are good, some are good, but some are just outright atrocious. I'm looking at you, Psycho from 1990 with Vince Vaughn. You were literally a shot-for-shot remake. You did not need to happen. And that's the key thing about it. Some movie remakes do not need to be, right? Like some movies, like, okay, if you want to expose an audience to a certain movie, why not just show them the original, re-release it, or just like, hey, let's go to the theaters, do like a midnight showing of these movies, because of the fact, hey, people will go see it, especially the older crowd who are like, hey, yeah, let me go relive my old memories. Requels, they're a bit less offensive, right? Because of the fact that, okay, it's just doing a sequel to a movie from long ago that may not have needed to have a sequel in the first place. I don't really have like a great example of this, right? Because of the fact I feel like, all right, if the direction they're going in is actually interesting, then all right, I'm gonna let y'all slide. The Jurassic movies is pretty much a typical example of that, like Jurassic World trilogy. Okay, so I'm with that. The Halloween movies from 2018, like, all right, I'm interested in seeing where it's going, and I just want to see Michael Myers kill some fools one more time. Jason Voorhees, where you at right now? Because you are at the 13th movie and you still haven't come out yet. I need my 13th Friday the 13th movie. It needs to happen. And now reboots. All right. So it's just pretty much taking the name of a series, right? And you're just going a little bit out of the way. Like you're pretty much doing something else with that sphere. Looking at you, Amazing Spider-Man and MCU Spider-Man. So they're technically reboots of the character. Now, I'm not harping on that one because of No Way Home and how that ended up being a GOAT tier movie, being the S of, it's not even an S tier anymore, it's a Z tier movie for me. I love that to death. But if you keep rebooting a certain movie or franchise, and this is a problem with all three, is that it eventually gets stale, right? It's eventually gonna lose its luster and it's gonna start tainting the originals, which may or may not be considered goated. So for example, right, there's a reason why there isn't a The Exorcist remake or reboot. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, is willing to go into that well again, especially after the critical failure that was the second movie and then the two prequels. The third movie, I'll give slack because that one was actually a really great movie and it was very suspenseful. That's the only sequel I acknowledge within The Exorcist. But all the others, I would like to ring them out. Oh, and we looking at, oh, don't even think you are safe, Amityville Horror.
Oof.
Oh my goodness. All of the unnecessary sequels, unnecessary remakes. And you wanna know what the worst part about it? I recently saw a video on YouTube entitled Horror Movie Timelines. It's a really great channel, and get this, his episode on Amityville Horror was 2 hours long, just trying to explain all of the different movies that was in that franchise. That franchise needs to die because it no longer needs to happen. Can y'all pick something else? Create something new. As you mentioned in the first podcast, why not create a new character like your Miles Morales or Amadeus Cho? Why not do the same with movies? Instead of going back to the well, you see, we get to just go and create something new, give it a new name, and at least give it the support it should or should not deserve, because some stuff is critical failures. We're looking at you, Bye Bye Man. I'm not even gonna get into that nonsense. But if it's a good idea and you are able to make like a satisfactory movie, script, or anything like that, go for it. But don't try to ape off of the name, because you're just gonna drive the original down the mud. There's a reason there is no Citizen Kane 2.
Oh, yes.
No explanation needed. I'm done with this rant. Stop it. Stop it, Hollywood. Because if you don't, I'm coming after all of you. Not officially, because I don't have any power over that. But Lord knows if I do.
Okay, so I just had shocked Pikachu face for most of that rant. But I absolutely agree with you, where, especially with the part of if you keep rebooting something over and over, it's the law of diminishing returns. Looking at Jurassic Park into Jurassic World, 20 years from now, if there's another Jurassic Space, then, where they call it Jurassic Space, and we have the T-Rex on the moon, for a lot of people, it's going to be like, yo, this is ridiculous. But for, kids, maybe it'll be interesting to see like, okay, we see dinosaurs again. But we're running into the issue of looking at Fast and the Furious franchise, where it's like, you have to get so creative for if you're making so many movies and then spin-offs. So you have to like top yourself every time. To me, that's one of the downfalls of sequels. They choose to go bigger. You don't always have to go bigger. Sometimes it can be the quiet moments that make more of an impact. But to the fact where it's like, oh, they're going to space, ha ha ha, and then at some point they actually go to space. I mean, if you haven't seen it, it's a spoiler, but whatever. And then it's just like, oh, look at us doing something original. So, but even just like with that, like there's so many Batman movies, but at the same time, I think for the majority, it's paced out enough. But we've had 3 Batmans in the past 10 years, I would say. 10, 14 years. Yeah. And then there's going to be a return of another one when the Flash movie comes out. So just with that, it can be really tough. I really love the part about what you said about aping off the name, where it's just like, okay, we want to do a horror movie. Let's pick Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, and then just make a crappy movie. And then it's like you ruin the franchise every time when you do that. And it makes the originals look worse by comparison.
Yes. Oh, yes. So, yeah, especially like your point about like things going into space or like upping the ante. Okay, so when it comes to that, looking at the MCU, right? This is where like, okay, it's like these are like sequels where they're not all going above and beyond like everything that's happening. Look at like series like Moon Knight or like how Doctor Strange is. It's like they're somewhat becoming more personal,
right? More
personal stories, and that's kind of like how you can raise stakes in movies. You don't have to do, as you said, like with the Fast series. I actually stopped watching those after the 6th one. It's like the sixth. No, no, no. It's the seventh one. That was the last one with Paul Walker in it.
Fair.
And because like at that point, it got so far away from its original premise that I like at this point they're just putting cars in there just to say like, oh yeah, this is a Fast and Furious movie. So let's have these cars in there. I'm like, but this ain't a Fast and Furious movie though. This is just like a heist movie or just a cheap action thriller with the characters from Fast and Furious in there. And you're just like, can you like just stop? Like you might as well just give it a different name.
Yeah, and I mean, we're gonna transition from Fast and Furious, but just even with that, like, you're not gonna pay to watch a racing movie 10 times, if we're being honest. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, what are we doing? But just even with that, did you think we needed another trilogy for Jurassic?
Honestly, technically no. Like, you could have been just fine with just the first Jurassic World movie, and it could have ended there. But like, okay, so we got like two more movies after that. All right, cool. Well, there's nothing to do about that now. But really, like you really like if you ever wanted to, like in the case of this one, like it could have just ended at Jurassic World, and we would have been fine. I would have been fine. But at the same time though, it's like could it been like where you could have been more creative or like could you have done a like better idea with a different source material?
Right.
I haven't seen a Lovecraftian movie in about 200 years. So hey, where is that at?
And if you've seen Underwater, but
Hey. We ain't go. That's a spoiler, sir. That's a
they
spoiler.
don't know what I'm talking about.
That's a spoiler, sir.
But just like even going from there, I think like easily Jurassic World might have been my favorite movie out of the entire bunch. Maybe Jurassic Park 3 can compete with it, but if they would have ended it right after there, I think they would have been fine. But then again, where if you keep going, now it's like, okay, we want to explore other things. And I really liked in the new trilogy where it's like they kind of explored more than survival, but existence, coexistence. What is it like for different biogenetic, just like organisms to kind of converse together? What does that mean for humans? Are we the superior species? Okay, now we have to kowtow to dinosaurs. Are dinosaurs just scary monsters or are they no better than just like normal animals?
Yeah.
And having to answer that was really cool. I just think that once you get to the second and third movie, especially in this one where it's like a lot of it can be copy and paste, like we saw that in Star Wars with the new trilogy, where it's like there was a lot of copy and paste. Like I really love The Force Awakens. Unfortunately, it was just like when I walked out of it, I was like, wow, this didn't really feel original. Like, okay, we have a bigger Death Star. Okay, we have a scene on top of a sky bridge where dad and son. And it's just like, you copy and paste it, where even here, it's like, okay, the T-Rex has to have the 1v1, which then turns into a 2v1, which we literally did in Jurassic World, and the Indominus Rex was much more scarier. So just with that, it can be tough. But do you think we want to see another?
Oh man, I honestly don't. I think like at this point the questions, at least like for me, like all the questions I've had are answered. And where could they go from here? I do not want to see them in space. I don't want to see like, all right, like, hey, there's another gigantic new dinosaur or like a spliced dinosaur a la Indominus Rex that's like just out here murking folks. Like at this point, it's already been done.
No, I think for me, if I'm being honest, if it was like, okay, 10, 20 years from now, I'm probably going to end up seeing it again, like all trilogy, the new trilogy. So this kind of goes just to the next point of before we get into like the fan kind of response to that, and we touched on the ideas part. Is this kind of a product of the issues with the streaming wars?
Perhaps actually. I just said like there's a many different streaming services out there there are many different streaming services out there that's trying to vie for our attention and our money, and in order to top one another, they like, hey, let's ape off of a franchise that like people know that they like, and then go after it. So, for example, Disney Plus, like of course they have all the Disney properties, And like with shows like Mandalorian going completely ham right now and being goated.
Oh, yes.
And with shows like that, it's like, hey, how can the other studios kind of compete with that? It's like with stuff like, okay, HBO Max. All right, what can we do to compete with the Mandalorian? Oh, I know. Let's bring back Young Justice. And in my honest opinion, like the show's starting to go downhill because they keep going to that well, and like quality is going down. Or
They're coming after you for that.
I know, but still, hey, I'm gonna die on that hill. I'm gonna die on that hill. Or other different streaming services like Paramount Plus, and I don't have that streaming service, but I heard like they're redoing a bunch of other shows like Dora the Explorer.
Like 6 Star Trek shows.
Oh my goodness. No. Just stop. But yeah, like at the end of the day, it's like each studio is just trying to vie for everyone's attention. And what better way to get their attention by aping off their nostalgia?
All right. Yeah, just going for that. It's kind of like, if you think about it, you have to have something new like Netflix when it first came out, it was you wait like maybe a few months and then you get every blockbuster that you kind of want. And you can get the old shows, but then Disney Plus comes around. They're like, yo, we taking everything. You want to see anything Marvel related? That's us. You want to see Lion King, Disney Princesses? That's us. Star Wars? Us. Then it's like, okay, The Office was on there. So then Peacock comes in and it's like, nope, you don't get The Office. Psych was on there, which I really love. Take it off, so many different things. So now it's like, okay, we need to create movies, we need to find other avenues, we need to create other streams. And like a lot of movies that would be blockbusters are now on the streaming services. Mm-hmm. So now from there you then have to create something new. So there's going to be a whole bunch of buddy cop movies, there's going to be a whole bunch of horror movies. We're going to see a lot of different just like action flicks that would typically at least get 40 million at the box office. And then now that the theaters aren't the only way that we get our movies, we see a lot more flops than we originally would.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, again, we just again, it's all about the money.
Yeah.
And that's all pretty much studios care about nowadays. Very, very rarely do we see a studio who have their very own Kevin Feige or Jon Favreau, who definitely love source material and love the fans enough to give them what they want,
right,
without dropping the quality much or if at all. So really, it's like, hey, it's corporate agenda.
Yeah. So
what's new in this world?
Yeah, so we say that, but is it the fans' fault also? Because we're going to hear us say a lot, listeners, that, oh, it's about the money. It's not necessarily just box office numbers, though. It's about, okay, I haven't been to a movie opening on a Thursday in like 5+ years. And okay, so I have to do this in order to do the podcast. And then I'm going to, if you want to listen to the podcast completely, you have to go see the movie yourself. So it's kind of a cascading effect. It's going to be, okay, what's the social media numbers look like? Talking about it, toys, books, other sales. So when we say it's about the money, it's more than that. And as fans, we're the ones providing the money. So is that like our fault in a sense, where we are okay with accepting reboots, requels, and just redos all the time?
It's actually a really great point. Don't you think like a good portion of the responsibility does fall on us because of the fact that we're supporting it? And then also there's just the way social media is, as you mentioned, where spoilers and how people are not allowed to have fun anymore. So spoilers are allowed to just run rampant online. It's like, hey, we noticed. Why you think whenever it's MCU or like MCU adjacent or required or whatnot, our whole thing is we shut off social media. We just go dark for like either a day or like a whole week. Hey, some people may be so much into it that they may go off social media for a month or even longer.
Right.
But yeah, as you mentioned, like at the end of the day, like we are the money. We are like what studios and everybody are trying to get the attention of. And if we're giving them that attention, then we're positively reinforcing some of those attributes that we may or may not necessarily agree with or like. So, and even if we voice our opinions, sometimes it may be a silent majority. Sometimes it may just be a silent minority. Like, you can just get drowned out and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah. So just with that, I kind of agree where it's, as a fan, because we're excited. And like when we see the Batman come out, and, you know, I was there and it was hype. It was an incredible movie. And Spider-Man, I'm a Spider geek, like I said last week. So being a webhead, I'm going to go see the movie. And then when they come out with another Spider-Man in 5 years, I'm going to go see it. So it's tough. And they know this too. So it's like, it's playing off the nostalgia, but then it's also, okay, we have a new group that we can target in terms of a growing audience who hasn't seen this before. So that can be just like a tough balance. And then as, you know, different fans of different media platforms or different just intellect that we see, it's like, oh, you can feel that disappointment because it feels like they're not trying. So just going from there, that was our deep dive. We're coming up for air. And from there, we can go to our sponsor for the day.
All right, so our sponsor for today is Prehistoric Conquest. It's going to be a game where you get to play as a human who's living in BC era Earth, where you can interact with as many dinosaurs as possible. Also comes in VR. So if you want to grab a copy of the game on PlayStation 12 and Xbox Infinite, as well as Nintendo Glass and VR capabilities, please go grab a copy of Prehistoric Conquest. It'll be a game like no other.
All right, listeners, we had a really great time. Just fun setup. You saw how we are going to do our movie reviews from now on. Attached with a deep dive. Wait a minute, why is my water shaking? And I hear like big footsteps. No, not again.
Yes.
I hear some Jurassic size Black Air Force is coming.
Oh yes, because it is time, our dear listeners, for the Black Air Force segment. And in keeping with the dinosaur theme, we gotta go to a well that has not been touched in a while, known as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And there's no need for introduction for this Black Air Force. His name is etched in history as Tommy Oliver.
Oh.
The OG Green Ranger. The man is a menace, okay? Firstly, right, he comes in and he fights our regular Red Ranger, and he's able to actually beat him in hand to hand without transforming. He's just like, oh, okay, wait, who is this guy? Where did he come from? And the next thing he does is something heartbreaking that takes over all of us humans and all the viewers. He managed to steal everybody's crush, Kimberly, out of everybody's hands, just out of nowhere. Decides to take her from all of you, so all of the simps who were simping over Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, now you gotta go through him. But it gets worse in here, ladies and gentlemen, because this man became a Power Ranger. He became the Green Ranger. He became evil. Worked with Rita Repulsa to go give the hands to all the Rangers. And what's the first thing that he does? He jumps into their Megazord and gives them the hands inside the Megazord and then beats them out of it. It ain't never been done before or since. He was the only one to go into their Megazord and beat them from the inside out, and then continue to give them the hands for 5 straight episodes. Everybody was stressing. He just kept getting more powerful by the second with that dragon dagger and then that sword. He just kept saying, oh, yeah, you know what? All 5 of you Rangers are not with the Ranger brand. You ain't with the Repulsa brand. You all gots to go. And he nearly beat all of them. And it gets worse in the Boom Studio comics because in a particular timeline, which I'm going to focus on, he never joined the Rangers. stuck with Rita Repulsa. And that was enough for Rita Repulsa to take over the world. He became a whole menace. He was going after Rangers left and right. Nobody was safe. And it went worse as Jason became his first t-shirt. Jason got put on a t-shirt by Tommy. And mind you, at this point, Jason almost became the White Ranger, but unfortunately, this man decided to take that White Ranger power, fused it with the Green Ranger powers, and became the first ever hybrid. He became Lord Draken and decided to run the fate on everybody. He fated a whole planet. He killed Jason the Red Ranger. He killed Billy the Blue Ranger. He decided to mind control the Pink Ranger so she can be at his side as an underling. And I'm not going to get into the implications of that, but you can see them from there. Fading a whole timeline. And when Rita Repulsa just decided, you know what? You did a good job, my son. He fades her too. He kills her and runs a whole planet as its ruler. But you thought this man was done? No, it wasn't enough that he had 2 Ranger powers fused in one. He wanted them all. So he said, you know what? I'm about to pull a Wanda Maximoff. Well, actually, a Wanda Maximoff decided to pull a him. He decided to go fade a whole multiverse of Rangers. And he succeeds. He fades the multiverse. And he decides, you know what? It wasn't enough. I'm gonna go fade every version of myself who did not turn good. And in fact, that was every single version of Tommy. Green Ranger, dead. Red Zeo, dead. Dino Thunder, dead. Because he decided, to say, you know what? If all y'all gonna turn good, y'all don't deserve to rep the Tommy brand. I'm the OG Tommy, big baby. And he puts everybody on t-shirts. He put the whole multiverse on t-shirts. He put Zordon on a t-shirt. He put them in packs. He faded the entire multiverse and became its sole ruler. The only reason he lost was because it was too much power for him to control. That was the only reason he lost. Come on, Dragon. Come get your Black Tims. Cause you faded multiverses. You killing yourself. How can you kill yourself? You decided to get rid of everybody who stood in your way. You decided to become the Superman of your own time. Like, you know what? Here, take him. I don't want to use smoke. In fact, let me join you.
Nice. Yeah, Tommy is definitely the Ranger who stands above all. So that is a great choice. Definitely Dino themed. I'm hype. Selling t-shirts, I'm definitely gonna get paid off of that as well if you want them. But yeah, that's a great choice. So really wrapping up, we're gonna get into our recommendations. So I'm mostly sticking in the Dino theme, but I'm kind of more kaiju related. So starting, we're gonna go with Disney's Dinosaurs, which is a classic Disney movie cartoon that was really interesting as a childhood. It's probably available on Disney Plus. We got Rugrats in Paris. If you got children, there's one scene that if you've seen that movie, you know why it's in the dino themed section. Most likely Paramount Plus with the Nickelodeon theme. So then we have Godzilla vs. Kong, which I was hyped about for years. HBO Max, Shin Godzilla. Not sure where that's available, but it's one of the best pure Toho Godzilla films. Pacific Rim, which is also on HBO Max. And then related to what Meech was saying earlier with the opening scene in Jurassic World Dominion, go see Okja. It's on Netflix and it's one of the most touching movies I've ever seen. It's about this relationship between a girl and kind of like a mutant pig, and it's really touching. So I would definitely recommend that. What do you have?
Yes. So in terms of your dinosaur picks, go see the entire Jurassic trilogies. Watch Jurassic Park, The Lost World Jurassic Park 2, Jurassic Park 3, Jurassic World, and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Oh yeah, so on HBO Max you can watch those movies and you can definitely get yourself all caught up before you go see Jurassic World Dominion.
Oh, cool. So wrapping up, we're going to get into our plugs. I'll just take it away for here. So we have our Instagram and Twitter, both at Blerd City 22. Our Patreon, which has our in-depth character study of Gara, plus the Doctor Strange movie review, and our pod from last week. That's going to be Patreon, the Blerd City pod. Discord is in the works. Then Gmail is blerdcity22@gmail.com. So BLERDCITY22 for all of those. And for my individual author pages, for my Instagram, it's Metri_dash, METRI_DASH. And for my Twitter, at the Mad-16. And just again, for if you want to check out my book, it's on Amazon, Phantom Pains, and Most Irregular Tale. What do you got, Meech?
All right. Well, so we're just going to go ahead and get on to our words of encouragement. So what I have for you all today is that the environment is very much important. We live on this world, and this world's going to be here long after we leave it. So be sure to take care of it, be sure to recycle if able, and just be sure to give it all the tender love and care it's needed so that way it can be around for your kids and your kids' kids.
Yeah. For me, just a quick one. Just like my boy Captain Yami said, push past your limits. So just push past your limits in terms of creativity. Try to do something new. Don't do copy and paste, but try to push past what you think you can in terms of just creativity, what you'll accept, what you'll allow. Going from there, it's not goodbye forever. It's just goodbye for now. And that's the Blerd City podcast.
See ya later.